Good evening. My name is Yuri Wint. I'm the publisher of Plus 61J Media, the organisation that has brought Rami and Bassam on their Let Us Talk tour of Australia, and this is their penultimate evening. So thank you for coming and taking the opportunity to hear them speak. Plus 61J is a media organisation that publishes twice weekly, and Plus 61J is the Australian country code. J is for Jewish, so we present news and analysis on Australia, Israel and the Jewish world through a Jewish lens. We are very committed to promoting peace, and in particular people-to-people projects in peace. Before I go on, I'd like to acknowledge the First Nations of this area. I'm from Sydney, so forgive me for reading them. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I should also thank the Wheeler Centre, because the Wheeler Centre has sponsored this through the Centre's World of Words series and is supported by the Melbourne City Revitalisation Fund. The short trailer that you saw is a film made by Melbourne's own Esther Takash. It's called The Narrow Bridge and is periodically exhibited, as it was yesterday at the Classic Cinema. Please look out for it because it covers extensively the Parent Circle, which is the organisation that Rami and Bassam belong to. If I may introduce Sally Warhaft, who hosts the fifth estate series in the Wheeler Centre and will conduct tonight's events to be followed by Q&A. You're never a salesman unless you ask for the order, so at the end of this, would you please subscribe to Plus 61J and follow us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Yuri, and welcome everybody tonight. It's such a thrill to be here, and it took a while actually. We had a bit of a false start in October last year, and it has been absolutely worth the wait to have you both here. So welcome, and I hope it's been a good trip. It's been a long one, I know, with a lot of events. Bassam Aramin is a Palestinian academic who spent 7 years in an Israeli prison for his role in the Palestinian resistance. Rami Elhanan is an Israeli graphic designer who served in the Israeli army as a younger man. What brings them together, of course, is that they want to speak to anybody who'll listen, of peace, of forgiveness, about fear and occupation. And they do this, as everything they do, in honour of their daughters, Abir and Smadar. You've been travelling for a long time together. Since when did it start? Perhaps you can start, Bassam.
She was looking at you.
I was.
In fact, I try to remember when. We start when we know each other, like since 2005. And I believe one year later, even before I lost my daughter, we start to give talks together because we became very close friends when we discovered that we share the same values. We care about justice for the Palestinians and the Israelis. Then we start to travel first with Rami's son as one of the co-founders of Combatants for Peace, Israelis and Palestinians, the Israelis who refuse to serve in Palestine or in the occupied territories in the Israeli army, and the Palestinians who are freedom fighters or ex-prisoners. We create Combatants for Peace. So we start to travel and to spread the message of peace and reconciliation, even 2 years before I lost my daughter.
Rami, can you tell us about the beginnings of this for you, how you started on this journey?
I lost my daughter, 14-year-old daughter, Smadar, in a suicide bombing in Jerusalem. And a year later, I met this big man, Tzhak Frankenthal, and he invited me over to watch a meeting of this group of crazy people. And this meeting changed my life completely. It was the first time ever in my life I have met Palestinians as human beings. I was 47 years old, and I was ashamed to admit that it took me so long. And the meeting showed me Palestinians, which are people like me, carry the same burden that I carry, suffer like I suffer. And I was so moved, and ever since then I'm on a journey towards system, culture, nature, story that was deliberately hidden from me in the Israeli upbringing process, and I'm still in the middle of this journey.
When you say that you didn't even see Palestinians as human beings, can you tell us more about that? What prevented that?
We are talking about two societies at war. The winning of one side is the total loss of the other side. It's a zero-sum game situation. And these two societies need to prepare the young generation to be able to sacrifice themselves when time comes. And this is being done by hiding the other side, demonizing the other side, dehumanizing the other side to the extent it will be no problem for a young, angry Palestinian to blow himself with 14-year-old girl, or a young Jewish soldier to shoot and kill 10-year-old girl. These are the worst walls possible. I don't know if any of you have seen the concrete walls between Israelis and Palestinians. Concrete walls can be torn down in a matter of seconds. If you look at the Berlin Wall and other walls, you can tear down concrete walls. Tearing down the walls within the heads is much more difficult.
Bassam, you've described being in prison as a young man, and by chance coming across the film, watching the film Schindler's List in prison, and that this was a defining moment in your life. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, in fact, as I said, this was by chance. Watch a movie about the Holocaust. And for me, the Holocaust does not exist. We never hear anything about it. We never study anything about it. So, in fact, I want to enjoy seeing this movie as kind of revenge. Because I am in their jails, so to see someone defeat them, kill them, arrest them. But what happened after a few minutes, I found myself crying, get sympathy with those innocent people in the movie, because for me, I don't expect to see such atrocities. It's against the human nature for me. In spite, I'm a very simple terrorist. I born in a cave, so it's against the human nature for me. It's a long story, but I follow this movie all the time in my mind because I want to understand more about this big lie. In fact, for a very personal thing, because I want to try to understand the brutal behavior of the Israeli soldiers when they come to my village. It's unbelievable. I say to myself, maybe those kids or those soldiers, they watch this movie before they come to my village. Then they will act in this brutal way, even if it's lie. So until 2010, 2011, I make my master's degree about the Holocaust in Bradford University in the UK. Then after that, I start to visit death camps in Germany. For me to know the other side was like a mission, because I learned in jail, if you know your enemy, you can defeat him or you can kill him. If you only hate him, you will kill yourself. So in fact, I want to know my enemy in order to know how to kill them and not to kill myself with the hatred. And I get to understand very important thing. If you know more, you act much better. If you don't know, simply you don't know. And sometimes I discover that it's much better not to know, because you always agree with yourself, with your narrative, with your history, with your religion, with your story. And when you start to know something different, in Arabic we say you start to suffer, because you cannot keep silent, because you are human beings.
Can you tell us about, I mean, there must be the widest possible spectrum of responses that the two of you get to the message that you're trying to give to people. It occurs to me that, and if, you know, for people who have watched the really excellent documentary that you saw the trailer for at the beginning, there's a scene in that film with you, Rami, where you're at a rally and you're walking around trying to, you know, share your message, and a woman, you talk to a woman who I would describe as almost indifferent. Her response to you is, it's chilling in her just indifference. And there's another scene where you go and talk to Palestinian terrorists. And the meeting, there was actually more openness, or a sense of that, in that meeting. Who is the hardest person to get your message across to? Is it indifference or is it fundamentalist?
Conveying the message is difficult in any case. And the ability to stand up in front of young children, in front of foreign groups, in front of everyone, is like living the tragedy again and again. But this is kind of a mission for us. It gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And it pushes us forward. I feel that my daughter Smadar is standing behind my back and telling me, go tell them. And I feel that I need to do it. And even if I do it 5 times a day and it's exhausting, at the end of the day, I'm full of energy and power, because this is exactly what we are doing. We are taking the energy of the pain, which is nuclear energy, and we turn it around in another way. And it's very important for us.
What about you, Bassam? Who do you, I suppose, find the most difficult people to sit down and talk with?
It's very strange to discover that even the people of Gaza, which is the biggest jail on earth, are more optimistic than the Israelis in Tel Aviv. It's really strange. And the most strange reaction I get from an Israeli right-wing young man, imagine, he don't want to listen to me when I start to talk. And after I talk about my daughter, then his reaction was, and why you didn't blow yourself up in an Israeli autobus, Israeli bus? Means you need to commit it as a suicide. How come that you didn't do it? Imagine. It means, and he said, if this happened to me, I will take my revenge. So it means when we get to know each other, to talk to each other as human beings, we understand each other. We have this language of humanity. This is the difference between us and the other side. The other side is the animals. And sometimes I really feel that the animals feel shame what we are doing to each other. We talk to anyone, to everyone, and as long as they listen to us, because, in fact, we learn how to listen to them. As Rami said, we are not more smarter than them. We listen to them, we understand them, then they will be ready to listen to us. I remember once I talked to more than 40 members of Hamas. For you, it's something unbelievable. They are brothers and sisters and our wives and other cousins. They don't believe that they are a peace movement in Israel. And if you are a Palestinian and if you are under the occupation, you cannot blame them to be right-wing or left-wing or extremist. If you are under the occupation, you need to resist. This is the normal thing to do, according even to Jabotinsky, when he said oppression create resistance. But those people, they have no idea about the human face in Israel in general, and they never met a normal Israeli like Rami. And I promise you, a Palestinian 16 years old kid, he don't believe Rami is a Jew at all, because the Jewish for him is the soldiers in the checkpoints, and they never talk to each other, and they are very scary, and they have a mission just to occupy him and oppress him and maybe kill him. When they discover the human face of Rami, they want to invite him personally to their home, to talk more, to know him more. So this is the difference.
I wonder how you explain the more optimistic Palestinians than Israelis, and I also wonder if this extends to the two of you, if you are in fact a more optimistic human being than Rami.
That's because I am a Jew.
And always I said to him, it's okay, no one is perfect. You know, it happened like while I was in jail. Our dreams is to be free, and our jailers are afraid of us, and they scared. So we become more free than them. When you get released, you try to overcome this painful past, to get out of prison. And sometimes if you remain in the same pain, you become a victim. And you know what's the meaning of victimhood mentality. As long as you feel as a victim, you think you have the right to do anything. So I decide I am not a victim. I don't want to be a victim. I make peace with myself. So I have no enemies to conquer, and no one can occupy me, which is very difficult. But this is what happened.
There's a depth of mourning I find in Israel, in the Palestinian territories, in the entire conflict, that it's impossible to feel from here. You know, you feel it when you're there, when you talk to people from Israel, from Palestine, that everyone is touched by this. And I wonder what the world outside of your homes needs to understand about that depth of mourning in understanding this conflict.
I think the message is universal. I think we are talking about human pain. It doesn't really matter how you lose your child. Losing a child is losing a child. And the pain will be there forever, 24 hours a day, 59 seconds out of every minute. This is one wound that will never heal, and it's true for anyone. If you lost your child in an accident or deliberately, it's the same pain. And in that sense, it doesn't matter if you're in Australia or in Jerusalem. It does matter your moral obligation as a human being when you see injustice, when you see this situation of one people dominating the other, when you see atrocities in front of you, when the place where the atrocities are being made ask for your support, for your unconditional support, you need to stand up and you need to behave like the Board of Deputies in London, when Mr. Smotrich asked for them to welcome him. They say, your Judaism is not ours. So it's your moral obligation to take a stand. It's your moral obligation not to stand aside while a crime is being committed. It's your moral obligation to understand, like I understood, that even if you live in a bubble, one day this bubble can blow up.
There's so much lack of hope I see and hear around me, and I feel it myself too. It's very hard to feel hopeful about this particular conflict. I wonder how each of you feel about that, and about where a political solution might come from. And
always I said to the people who outside who are, not optimistic or give up hope, I said, you have no right to give up hope, because we didn't. And you are here and we are there. In fact, it's very easy for you not to compromise anything there, because you are not suffering personally. As a Jewish, your son didn't stand at the checkpoint. And as a Palestinian, your son didn't cross checkpoint. And always I said that the Israelis or the Palestinians didn't kill 6 million Israelis. And the Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians. And there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv. And there is an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. 2 years after 6 million victims, after the Holocaust, the best relation between two states is Israel and Germany. In other words, also we can do it. The level of hatred and blood didn't arrive even since 75 years between the Palestinians and the Israelis to this level. What we need is a brave leader to take us towards the future and to release us from the very painful past. In fact, always I said, like someone like Netanyahu, he must mention the Holocaust 5 times a day, as I pray 5 times a day, which create a victimhood mentality, which create fear. And the Holocaust, it's not before 3,000 years. It's yesterday. And the Holocaust survivors still telling the story. So I am very optimistic, and I believe every day is less day at the age of the occupation. It's not written anywhere that we are going to continue killing each other forever. We will have peace, we will sign peace agreement, but we don't know when. How much blood we need for those politicians to sign the same agreement, to share this land as 1 state or 2 states or 5 states even. Otherwise, we will share the same land as 2 big graves to our kids, our families, and our people. I don't believe that the Israelis will give up their safe place after 3,000 years of slavery and discrimination and anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. And I don't believe the Palestinians, even I promise you, after 3,000 years from this night, including myself, we will never, ever accept the Israeli occupation or the Israeli control, or whatever you call it. We must be free. It's up to us to decide to live side by side or together, or unfortunately, we will continue to sacrifice the blood of our kids to protect the holy stones of our holy land.
Do you feel the same sense of possibility in that, Rami?
I have no doubt. I walk behind him with my eyes closed, and I know that what he says is true. It's difficult for me, as a rational people, to be optimistic. But I have no doubt in my mind, in the long run we are going to suffer. In the short run, we are being led by extreme right government. We are like a train running towards the wall with no driver. But I look at it and I see Israelis go out to the streets. They demonstrate. They don't accept the fate. And they are shouting out loud. They are still fighting for their privileges. And they don't want to notice the big elephant in the center of the room. But more and more signs of there is no democracy with occupation, more and more Palestinian flags, more and more people understand that it's not here and now, it's tomorrow. And we have to find a solution for this basic problem of one people dominating another. It's the essence of everything. And in the long run, I know this is the historical direction. There will be no other way. The Palestinians will not throw the Israelis to the sea, and the Israelis will not throw the Palestinians to the desert. We are doomed to live there together, and we will.
I wonder what you think of some of the responses from outside particularly to Israel, the cultural boycotting and these sorts of reactions of people trying to lend their voice in very different ways. But is this helpful? Is it unhelpful? Rami, perhaps you can go with it. Yes.
But she was looking at you.
No, I was looking at you. You see, you're nicking the line now.
It's a very difficult question
You've got to watch him.
brother.
You've got to watch him, Bassam. I can see this.
No, I'm not ashamed and I'm not afraid of this question, and I think it's an important question. And I think people have to be able to look in the mirror and see the ugliness of the situation. The fact is that most of the Israelis are sitting in their coffee houses very comfortably, looking at the news, reading the newspaper, drinking their coffee. They don't pay any price for the continuation of the occupation. They don't know what is going down their noses 200 meters. They don't want to know. And the Israeli media covers it and don't tell them. And this is an abnormal situation. It's prolonging our suffering. So Israelis must be able to pay a price for the continuation of this situation. And it's the role of the free and civilized world not to stand aside while these atrocities are taking place. Personally, I feel very bad about boycotts. And sometimes boycotts create more damage than benefit. And I don't think that by putting your finger in the eye of someone, you urge him to move forward to the right direction. But situation in Israel and Palestine is so dramatically problematic that people need to choose. I, for example, will not buy any product of the settlements. You can make your own decisions about where are you involved, what are you going to do in order to change. And it's your moral obligation, each and every one of you, to do the right thing at the right time.
We're living in such a particular time, not just politically in Israel, Palestine, but culturally too, all over the world. And that it's an incredibly sensitive time. I was thinking if either one or other of you had come to Australia, which is impossible to imagine, of course, with one of you without the other right now, but the sensitivity of inviting an Israeli or a Palestinian. There's such a quest for perfection in every way that we address things, and particularly, on stages, in conversations and things like that. Is there a part of Western culture, I suppose, at the moment, is what I'm talking about, that needs to relax about the way that it has conversations like this?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Rami,
I think it's about time that the Western civilization will stop looking at this conflict as good guys against bad guys. It's not a Western. They are not the bad people. We are not the good people. We need to rise up above our initial upbringing of seeing the movie with the cowboy riding towards the sunset, and understand that there is a real pain here. That we are talking about two nations, two children fighting over the same toy. They won't let go. And when you support one side unconditionally, you are not helping.
Now I understand.
Would you like to add to it, please?
I believe both of us are victims to Uncle Sam. I believe the keys are in United States of America. When they decide to end this conflict, they will. And many people believe that they don't understand, the mentality and the culture. I was there 10 times. I believe they understand exactly what they are doing. They know exactly what they are doing. And it's not in their interests. I mean, the political point of view, which is very difficult. And sometimes if they just leave us alone, we know and we understand that no one will disappear from us. We will stay together. We have the right to exist. The Israelis cannot throw us to the desert, as Rami said. We are not going to throw them to the sea because already all the Jewish people know to swim, so they will come back. So there is no point. But I always ask the people, as Martin Luther King says, he says, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So don't keep silence. Because if you keep silence today, tomorrow, no, you will never find someone to raise up his voice for you. We must be for each other.
You're going home tomorrow. What's the next step in what you're hoping might be achieved in your work?
I'm taking my grandson to Norway.
Yeah.
I think my wife will keep me for 1 week at home. In fact, on Sunday, next Sunday, we have another meeting in Jerusalem. 2 meetings, in fact, for American groups. So this is our daily life. We are not two professional suppliers. This is our life. As Rami said, it's our duty for the memory of our beloved daughters. I wrote on Abir's grave that your killer will die and you will live longer than him. And I will talk about you everywhere around the world, because it's forbidden to kill kids under any circumstances. Our message is not for the Israelis and the Palestinians only. It's for everyone. We are mirrors to each other. When I talk about my tragedy, you remember your own tragedy. And this is what happened to us. So we try to say that we can use our pain in a different way for every one of us. We need to make our world much safer and much better for all of us.
The pictures of your daughters have just come up behind us. Can you tell us a bit about Abir?
Sometimes when we told the story, I said in the 16th of January 2007, an Israeli border police shot and killed her from a distance of 15 to 20 meters in her head from the back, 9:30 in the morning. She was with her sister and 2 other girls. She fell down, and 2 days later, she passed away in Hadassah Hospital. And we escaped. We don't want to go to talk about details. It's very difficult. It's ongoing pain. Nothing more important than the kids, not the land, not the holy places, nothing. And always I said that Abir was a very ordinary girl, but she was my girl. She was my daughter. And it's a wound in the heart forever. You will never heal, whatever happened. Imagine she had her own dreams. She wanted to be an engineer, I don't know why. She participated in 2 summer camps with Israeli kids. After we create Combatants for Peace, I want my kids to meet the enemy side, to discover that they are kids like them. Not in my case, for my first meeting with the normal Israelis when I was 37, except the soldiers and, of course, the jailers and the settlers, which is very violent. And especially Abir, she wanted to study Hebrew, to be in touch with her friend Tal from Tel Aviv area. I remember that I translate between Abir and Tal maybe 2 times or 3 times. They kill her dreams, but they change my life. It's before and after.
Yeah. You mentioned then Hebrew, learning Hebrew. You learned Hebrew in jail?
Yeah, we call it the University of the Occupation, the Israeli jail. So we learn.
How important has that been, the language, learning each other's language in this?
You know, in general, the people who learn the language of the occupier or the colonial, or it's something normal. For me, it was like a mission. I want to study, to learn this language in order to talk to them, in order to talk to the Israelis with their own language. And if you know Hebrew, you can also understand the language of fear, which is ongoing fear, the Israeli side, in the Jewish in general. And always I said it's not easy to be a Jew, not only in Israel, all around the world. And luckily I'm not a Jew. It means I don't carry, when I was a kid, 3,000 years of history, of slavery and discrimination and anti-Semitism. So I believe to know the language, it's very important. It's a big obstacle to understand the other side, to empathy with the other side, and to show your humanity to the other side. So it's very important, the language.
Can you tell us about Smadar?
Smadar was 14 years old. She was my third child. She was very beautiful. She was an excellent student. She was a swimmer. She was a dancer. She played the piano. And she really was amazing, laughing all the time. She played a mother to our little boy. Igal was 5 years old when she got murdered. And she really was amazing, and her departure left a big hole of emptiness until today.
Her brother is all grown up and joined the army. Can you tell us about that? Because it's within families, this, isn't it? These conversations, particularly within families.
It's, this tragic events throw you to another place. He was 5 years old when she was killed. She was the center of his life, and in one day she disappeared. And he grew up in a crazy family. We became very active. His brothers who served in the Israeli army, combat soldiers, told him, don't go to the army. I told him, don't go. If you will join the army and stand in a checkpoint, what will you do when Bassam will be coming towards you? Where will you bury yourself? My wife told him, don't go, I will not wash your uniform. And he looked at us and he said, you all went. And because you went, people are willing to listen to you. And I want to be able to speak up too. So he have decided to join the army and served as an instructor for young deprived kids on the verge of crime. And I was full of admiration for his ability to keep his own identity and face us and face his society. I don't know if you know, in Israeli society, it's unthinkable not to go. And the pressure on this young generation is unbearable. So he did a marvelous job. He did a sacred job. I was watching him with a lot of admiration. And when he got out of the army, he joined the parent circle. He found himself a friend. They go together to give lectures. The people say that they are much better than us. His friend is Aramin, Bassam's son. If you Google them, you will see that they are really much better.
I saw them there. They're handsome.
Yeah.
And for the language issue, for Rami, he almost understands Arabic good, but he didn't talk, so I suggest that we put him in the Palestinian jail for 5 years. He will become a lawyer in Arabic.
Can you tell us about Combatants for Peace? Because this is where you first met, and what the rules are and how big that organisation now is. Perhaps you can...
As I said, we started in 2005. When we met, we were 11 people, 4 Palestinians, 7 Israelis. And in fact, all the Israelis, each one have his own story. In one point, he discovered that they didn't serve the Israeli security through their service. They just create more enemies in the Palestinian side, which is true for me. And the Palestinians, we get to understand that there is no military solution to this conflict. So we need to talk. It's very simple, but it was very difficult, of course. So we meet each other in 2005. And we continue to meet. For 1 year, we became 300 members from both sides. When we discovered that we are the same, yes, we want to kill each other to achieve the same thing. We want peace and security, of course, each one from his point of view. And there is a very famous saying of Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. He said, beyond right and wrong, there is a field. Let us meet there, or meet me there. Believe me, we know who's right, we know who's wrong, and in spite of that, we said we need to meet. Maybe we can survive together. And in this case, we create this Combatants for Peace. Today, I believe we are, or they are, around 1,000 members. They are very political, very sharp. You cannot say as a Palestinian, I'm going to prepare like a suicide bomber, then I will come to the meeting. And the Israelis cannot say that I'm going to the service in the occupied territories, then I will join the meeting. It doesn't work. To be against the occupation or to be pro the occupation. And I believe this is a very brave partnership between the Israelis and the Palestinians. This was our goal, in fact, to prove that there is a partner for peace on the other side. Because, you know, in Israel, there is no one to talk to. For the Palestinians, of course, there is no one to talk to except Ben Gvir, Itamar, those days. And we want to prove that, according to Nelson Mandela, when he says, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy, not only to talk. Then your enemy become your partner. So this is what we want to prove, that there is a partner for peace in the other side. The problem, you need to trust your partner for peace. And this is very difficult. How come that I trust this man? For me, he's an Israeli, he's an occupier, he's a Zionist. Even he don't smoke, so, which is the worst for me. How can I trust him? And for him, I am a killer, I am a terrorist, but we learned that when we work together towards peace, to create a partnership only, you know, we don't need to love each other. We don't need to like each other even. In spite, I still love him. Always I said, we need to respect each other. You want peace, I want peace. Even if you hate me and I hate you, we can still exist. But we prove that we are normal human beings. We can be friends, we can be partners, and we can be brothers in our case.
Is there anyone in the Israeli parliament that has listened to you two, that has an empathy for what you're doing?
Not really. The Israeli left is dead. He's dead. It was killed in October 2000 by Ehud Barak. and ever since then it's in decline. And we don't look at the parliament as a place where we can have salvation. We believe that the Oslo Agreement failed so dramatically because it was done between politicians and not by the people. It was imposed on the backs of the people without any preparation or without any reconciliation process. One day we have peace, and the other day we are disappointed and we don't have peace. We need to work from below. We need to find and search for people who are willing to listen, and also people who are not willing to listen. We go to high schools, we talk in ceremonies, we talk in funerals, we talk everywhere possible to create a grassroots movement that will create a pressure from below up. There are no shortcuts. This is a very long and bumpy road, but this is the only way possible, because the other way leads to nowhere. And this is our mission, and this is what we are going to do, and no one can stop us. If they don't let us through the door, we will come in through the window.
If you would like to ask a question, please just put your hands up and somebody will put a microphone in it. Put your hand up nice and, yeah, great.
Thank you. Brilliant to hear your insights and your passion and compassion. The question is the current Israeli government. What is it that you most fear about this current Israeli government?
It's the Israeli government and not the Palestinian government. So in fact, for me, if you ask us as Palestinians, it's the same government since 1948, 75 years. The right wing, the left wing, they continue the same occupation, confiscated lands, more settlements, more settlers, up to date. But I think it became different with the last government for the Israelis themselves. For the Palestinians, I believe this government is the best friend for the people who don't want peace. In Israel, it's another issue.
As I said earlier, Israel is on a train right now, running towards the wall. For the first time in the history of Israel, since Menachem Begin took over in 1979 until today, he always looked for partners from the center and created coalitions that was able to understand the feeling of the people and create a situation that we can go on one way or the other. Now, for the first time, it's full right-wing, extreme right-wing. The extreme right-wing holding Netanyahu by its balls. And he knows that the minute his government falls, he goes to jail. They know for the first time in their history, they have a chance to double the number of settlers in the occupied territories, to bring laws about the LGBTI, the minorities in the Israeli, and they are anxious and furious to achieve as much as possible. The positive thing is that for the first time in the history of Israel, the masks are off. And Israel is being portrayed to its citizens and to the world as non-democracy. It was never a democracy. I mean, between the river and the sea, there are 12 million people. Half of them are under military rule. Half of them don't have the right to vote. Half of them go to jail, judged by judges they don't being elected by them, by rules that they do in a House of Representatives. So it's not a democracy. It has never been a democracy. And people are trying to understand what's going on. People are going out of their houses to the streets. People are watching the big elephant in the center of the room, and something is changing. And also the world see this reality and turn its back to this fascist regime. And I'm not a prophet. I have no way of telling you what will be in the future. It's very interesting historically. But I believe that the outcome will be okay.
Hello, thank you for speaking to us. Do you believe that Israel will have to have a civil war to progress the situation?
I really hope and pray that not. When you look around, everywhere possible, there come times where a decision has to be made. And the history shows us that people do not tend to give up their privilege, their rights, what they seem to them rights, and their fears. And in that sense, I don't think that there will be a civil war in Israel, but we are on the verge of it. We are very, very close, and it's a big, big question mark whether what will happen if this juridical revolution will go on. I believe that more and more people will go out to the streets. I believe there will be an active resistance to it. And the most determined and powerful side will prevail.
Hi. Look, it really is a very tragic situation for both sides. But to be fair, could we ask the same question of the Palestinian side, who to talk to?
To have a civil war or on the Palestinian side?
We ask the Israeli side.
תגיד לה, מה יקרה אחרי שאבו מאזן ימות?
You know, on the Palestinian side,
He's not a side.
we are not a side. There is no two sides, unfortunately. It means even the Palestinian president announced that he need a permit to move from one room to the other in his own house from the Israelis and the Americans. In fact, we have no problem with the Palestinian side, the Palestinian politicians, the Palestinian president. We meet him many times with other Israeli peace activists, but they have no power. They have no effect in general. And always I said, if there is a brave Israeli leader, he will find his Palestinian friend or partner for peace, of course. Israel cannot make peace alone with herself. So they need to have a Palestinian partner, and it's always there. But unfortunately, we saw what happened with Yitzhak Rabin when he tried to make a real peace or to end the occupation. His destiny was very difficult. And we didn't occupy the Israelis, so to say we are two equal sides. It's not because I don't want to criticize the Palestinian side, but there is no side to criticize. In this case, I mean.
Thank you so much for everything you've said. It's so powerful. I apologise, I have two questions. My first question is, what is your experience of extremism, and is it possible, to really communicate with people from both Palestinians and Israelis who are extreme? And the second question comes from the older people that I've known in my generation, the Jewish people they come from fear. They fear that Israel will be lost as a Jewish state if we give in, so-called, to the Palestinians. I wonder, what is your view of that?
They're two big questions, yes.
What was the first question?
Questions. The first question was the one about extremism. What's your experience of speaking with extremists?
I'll be very short and decisive. We cannot allow ourselves to be victims of the extremists on both sides. We cannot, the vast majority of Israelis and Palestinians understand the price of peace. And the vast majority of the two nations are willing to pay it. Once we will let ourselves be hostages of the extremists on both sides, the settlers on one hand and Hamas on the other hand, we are doomed to go on fighting each other until there will be no one left to kill. I think the two sides understand it. I think we carry the burden of the past on our shoulders. But as Bassam said, when there will come a leader brave enough to overcome this threat of extremism, then we will be able to prevail. Your second question is much more important. The fear of the Jewish people to become minority. And this goes on throughout the history, from the early days of Zionism, a land without a people for a people without a land, they said in the 18th century. And until today, it connects to the story of the two sides and the fact that there are no two sides. One side, which are the Palestinian people, are completely defeated. Everything that they have tried, terror activities, political agreements, everything failed. They are now completely defeated and fatigued. They lost every will of fighting. There is no organized resistance to Israel. And we are not talking about two sides in the sense that we are talking about one side, which is a nuclear power. It's the 10th most strongest army in the world. We didn't have a real war for the last 30 years. An army against army, tanks against tanks, airplanes against airplanes. We are fighting kids throwing stones and rusty rockets that create almost no damage. And we are the victim. We carry on our backs this 3,000 years of victimhood. No one else is allowed to be victim. We send our kids to Auschwitz when they are 16 years old, and they come back draped with the national flag and the slogan, "Never again." And the next year, this kid, coming back from Auschwitz, finds himself in a checkpoint, and he has to make a decision whether this old guy coming towards him is a terrorist, a time bomb, or just a grandfather, which is inhuman. So the answer is very simple, and I will tell you what I think personally. A state is not something sacred. A state is not something that you kill or die for. A state is a tool, a technical tool. You pay your taxes, you get security, you get roads, you don't kill, and you don't die for it. And we need to redefine the reasons to kill or die for. We need to do a restart on our very self-determination wisdom. And we can have one state, and we can have two states, and we can have 3,000 states, and we can have federation or confederation, whatever we'll choose. These are technical solutions. One word is essential. Without it, nothing will happen. The word is respect. And you have to be able to respect the guy next to you exactly as you want to be respected. No more and no less. Once you will be able to do so, everything is technicalities. You will have the Temple Mount for 2 days. I will have the Temple Mount for half an hour. We will find ways to live together and not kill each other.
That's enough.
We have to be able to give up two major things, which I know how impossible it is. We have to give up the idea of Jewish supremacy, and we have to give up the victimhood mentality. Once we will be able to give it up and stop being afraid of him, peace will prevail.
And for me, people who occupied another people will never feel free. In spite their fear, unfortunately, we are not going to continue paying the price of the Jewish fear forever.
We're so grateful for your time. It's gone so fast. I'm sure there are lots more questions, but thank you so much for coming all this way and coming to the Wheeler Centre in Melbourne, and happy, safe travels home. Please come back, send your boys back. I'd be very interested to interview them.
In the summer, not in winter.
Thank you for your amazing presence, and your questions were exactly what we wanted to. We knew all the answers by heart.
Yeah, very kind. Thank you, everybody, for being here too. Thank you.
Thank you.